Hello, everybody, and welcome to this special guest episode of the Comedy Workshop. Today in the workshop, we've got a crossover episode with the Merke Shop. It's a celebrity Q&A. He's a comedian, actor, and improviser who you can see on his YouTube channel, Aaron Merke, in character, in series like Character Monologue and his exceptional tutorial series like the Merke Shop. Please give a like, a subscribe, and a round of applause as we welcome to the Rectangle, recent ACTRA Award winner for Most Outstanding Male Performance in a Short Film. It's Aaron Merke.
Hi. Robert,
Hey.
I'm out of here. Hey, how you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you here today.
Thanks, man. Thanks, guys.
If you've never enjoyed one of our Q&As in the workshop before, the way it works is we're going to go around the circle, we're going to raise our hands, and we're going to ask you some questions, and you are an absolute wealth of knowledge. If anyone's not familiar with Aaron Merke, you can check him out on YouTube. He's got an excellent series on how to get started as a stand-up, as a improviser, as an actor. He is a wealth of knowledge, and it is an absolute pleasure to have him here today.
Thanks, guys.
So I'm going to get the ball rolling with a first question for you, Aaron. I've heard you mention that you write in both journaling notebooks and also I've heard you mention Evernote. And I wondered how that both of those things fit into a workflow and where for you.
Oh, man. Evernote is like my catch-all. Like, it's kind of like when I don't take my notebook everywhere. Like, when you start dating someone and like, can you just pay attention? So to me, I was like, okay, this is an issue. So I put my book away in a certain way because I love my wife. But that didn't stop me from writing. So it kind of happened the same time as technology started to pick up. So Evernote became the thing rather than carrying around. Like I have, is it here? No, it's in my other workspace. But I have like the same notebook. Like I don't write in journal notebooks. I write in like drawing notebooks, like the hardcover ones. I'm very specific. It's very ritualistic of like how I write and how I do. And it makes no sense. But yeah, so Evernote is kind of my catch-all where I'll write like tangents, like just a concept. Like I don't know if I put it out yet. But I have a video coming out about creativity and how to write for stand-up, and it's basically like the other day I just wrote like baby ear piercing, right? So it's like I know I want to do a chunk on babies and why they have their ears pierced and all that kind of jazz. So that's kind of what I do is I'll like, oh, that's okay, or I'll notice someone is like that lady who spoke like this at the mall, or like like just things I just notice, right? Things that I'm not gonna remember, I have to write it out. Yeah.
Awesome. And you can find it later, fortunately, with the digital sources.
Yeah.
Which makes it perfect for those tangents.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how I organize them because I'm just like, because I write short film too, and I write sketch, and so I'll be like, I call it standy. So I write standy, and then I'll write the month, and so that month you have all my jotted notes, and then I'll just leave it. Like I don't need to like force myself to write if I'm not writing that because I'm totally ADD or ADHD, I guess. Because everyone's like, it's ADHD now. I was like, I don't know. It's gonna always be ADD. But like I go on tangents, man. So it's like I just write. So that my biggest thing is write. For anyone who just get up and write.
How do you get yourself, when the ADD starts fighting you, how do you get yourself into that writing mode?
Yeah, this is funny because this is all of my stuff that's in the video that's upcoming. But basically, I've changed my schedule because we have a 2-year-old now. So I recently changed my schedule and I love it. So I wake up. This is good. You guys are gonna be like, you're insane. I wake up at 4 a.m. every day. And I get up and I either write, I edit, or I shoot a video. So you'll notice in my videos, my hair is always garbage because I just woke up and I don't want to like go and bother people upstairs. So I come down and I'm like, okay, and then I go to the garage to shoot my videos. So I made I have a studio in my house, which I'm in right now, and then I have a studio in my garage. So it's a long process now, but yeah. So I wake up and I do one of those things every day. So it depends on where I am in my video cycle, really. Does that make sense?
Nice.
And I do it for about like if I'm writing, I'll do it for about 45 minutes every day, at least.
How long have you been doing that for? Sorry.
Since I think it was just before, so October, this last October.
Cool. Was it consistent right off the bat, or did it take you a while to like?
The waking up was hard. I had to put 2 alarms on.
Yeah.
And I'm such a nerd. So there's a guy named Andrew Huberman who talks about like what's it called? See, this is ADD. This is what ADD. But it talks about light and your it's not hibernation mode, but you have a sleep pattern, your sleep rhythm pattern.
Yeah.
And so if you get a light in your eyes first thing, that's why I don't look at my phone just before bed, because it screws with your sensors. So like, but I go to bed at 9. But like, so from like 8 o'clock on, I don't look at my phone, not once.
Smart.
Optic flow and how it affects circadian rhythms.
Yeah. Oh. Someone's in on
like,
the Andrew Huberman. You know who Andrew Huberman is?
I Googled it. That's my superpower.
Oh, that's great. I think you should have just owned it. But like, yeah, I know that. Sorry, I did not mean to just interrupt. Sorry about that.
No, sorry. So you have you're the most clear thinking right when you wake up in the morning. Is that what?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
how does that affect a job, your performance in a job that quite often is required of you starting late at night?
What do you mean? Like doing stand up?
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you're doing stand,
it's been in COVID, right?
Right. Okay.
I had a baby just before COVID. Like she was 1, and COVID hit. And I wasn't doing, because I've been focusing a little bit on makeup. Like I do makeup effects as well. That's like my job is special effects makeup. Yeah, man, I'm weird. I'm like all over the map. So that and acting have kind of like taken a lot of my space of stand-up. And then I try to get out as much as possible. Like the way I write stand-up is through improvisation. Like those ideas that I have, I then take them up on stage and suck. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then the ones that hit, if the audience laughs and gets it, then I'm like, okay, there's something to this. And that's how I write. Like I do believe in writing, like being able to write form and changing this word for that word and just getting it concise and tight eventually. But I'm gonna be doing. Oh, anyway, I won't say this anymore because it sounds so stupid and pretentious. But I'm gonna be doing a video on how I feel someone's uniqueness is way more important than your writing ability, because you can learn to write, but you can't learn to be unique. And I think that is huge. Like people underestimate that completely.
Robert,
I'm just wondering, how do you go from getting paid in beer to getting paid actual cash when you're a stand-up comedian? Like, how does that? What do you transition? Like, how do you transition from alcohol to cash? You know.
I think because I'm not a club dog. My experiences was I motivated myself to do more corporate at some point because I can work clean.
Right.
That's where it fit for me, and I didn't like stand-up was kind of secondary in my life, right? So I started in improv, then I moved into sketch, and then I was like, I'm gonna try this stand-up thing, which opened up a ton of doors. So like I got TV really early. So like I started doing stand-up, and then like 4 months later or a year, like it was really quick. I started doing video on trial. Like it was a really quick transition. And the reason was I had a spot. It was pure luck. Like I think people underestimate how much luck has to do with people's careers. Like let's be honest. Like it's a lot of luck how people once you get lucky you have to navigate it, which we can get into. But like when I got that spot, Robin Williams decided to show up at the Rivoli and do a set with Lewis Black, and so I went in between Robin Williams and Lewis Black. Yeah, it was fucked up, man. Like, it was like, how does that happen? And there happened to be Much Music producer in the room and liked my stuff and asked me to do video on trial. So that's how that worked. It was just it was they weren't booked. They weren't booked for that show. They just showed up and crashed.
No, I totally agree with you. It's luck. But how do you hit the corporate circuit? Like, you go just cold calling the human resources?
Yeah. I mean, you can't, like, how I approach things a lot of the time is I'm okay like doing like garbage jobs for free. Like because I can do corporate workshop, like I'll do like improv workshops for corporate, like because I diversified so much, like I learned a trade really early. Like I learned improv like in and out really early. And I'm someone who really loves to educate themselves, but not through school. Like I can't do school. School is not for me. But I educate myself in my own way. I would utilize corporate, and then I would use that to like teach high schools. I teach corporate people just on how to like communicate, and then that would lead to like stand-up gigs. And I think I just had a drive to push to that. And I don't do a lot of clubs. Like I did a few clubs, but I never was a touring like comic. I was more of like, you got money, let's do it. That was kind of my approach to it. So I don't know if I can facilitate where you want to go in that sensibilities, but I think, but I know there's booking agents that do that kind of thing, and maybe looking for a booking agent. And you're out of BC, right?
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
right now,
booking agents is a good thing unless you're an independent, and if you're producing produce your own shows, man. Like produce your own shows, yeah, right, and then make them corporate.
Yeah. So what I've been doing is just doing some outdoor shows. I don't want to take up their whole time, but
no.
I met a guy who was barbecuing, like he's barbecuing outside on his patio, and I told him I did outdoor shows in the park. And then he said, well, do you want to come do comedy here? So I've started doing a little bit of comedy, bringing a troupe of comedians to the restaurant and doing a couple of gigs, but we're not getting paid. We're just getting paid in meals and beer and all that, And I guess getting paid takes a while. But I don't feel like I have too many skills other than stand-up. I was a teacher. I'm a retired teacher. I mean, I probably could branch off of stand-up, but right now I want to focus more on stand-up.
I think like because stand-up is such a marketing, like it's such a marketing heavy world, I would suggest figure in negotiation. Watch some videos on negotiation, because negotiation, you can take paid in beer and go, we're going to need like $100 per comic on top of the beer. And then here's why. And then you just have to have the answers of here's why. But like, there's some really good, like, I don't think being a performer that you can just, like, there's some really talented people out there for sure where they're just like, I'm going to hire you here. I'm going to cherry pick you and go. To me, that's not my world. I have to make everything that I do. Like, I have to push and make that work. Like, everything is like me grinding it out. Right. So I think we have to be multifaceted. Like, there are some performers that are like, oh my goodness, but that took them grinding out too. Right. Like, Mulaney didn't become Mulaney. Like, Mulaney worked clubs in New York forever. Mm-hmm. Right? Dimitri too. Like Dimitri, like, everyone works their different way. Like Dimitri Martin, I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Like, he works in a totally different way. Like, but they're unique, right? Like, that's why I think uniqueness and figuring out your specific point of view, like being a teacher, like, for how long, that's a great point of view, Mm-hmm. So I think it's looking at marketing and negotiation, looking how to negotiate and how to, like, there's a thing, I'll teach you one thing that I just learned, which I'm blown away by. So I'm not an expert in this in any way, but it's called anchoring your price. So a corporate company comes to you and they want to pay you to do a corporate show. So you're like, here's you want to get your number out right away. So, and this is what I was told. So it's like, figure out what your cost is. So it's like $3,000. I want $3,000. or $2,000, somewhere between $3,000 to $2,000, depending on how many people, blah blah blah, this and that. But those are the prices. So that's called anchoring the price. It's getting them to think of the higher price first, so they automatically think when they think your name, they think of the higher price, so they have to come to that price.
Oh, interesting. Okay, thank
You know what I mean? There's a lot of tactics out there that I think
Yeah.
we could learn. I think because we think in that, what is it, left or right? I don't know. I'm dyslexic, so never going to get that right. But like the left or right hemisphere of the brain is going to want to
Yeah.
pull you one way. You have to do the other, right? Like you have to do the marketing, you have to do the business side of things. I think sometimes it's like, but I'm an artist. It's like, yeah, but that's why our artists starve, because they don't learn the marketing side. They don't learn the business side of things. They don't like when I started in improv, I showed up. I didn't have a job. I was Canadian. I moved to Chicago because I got invited to come, but I wasn't getting paid to be there. So I saved up a bunch of money in Canada. I went down and I was like, I knew this was my opportunity because I was working in a steel mill before that, right? Like I worked in garbage jobs. I had 3 jobs. I worked at a steel mill, I worked in a gas station, and I worked at Earl's. And those are my jobs. And that was like, I worked in the kitchen at Earl's. Like, it wasn't like I was getting good money at Earl's, right? So I worked my butt off, went down, and I lived in a squat with, I met some Irish guys. And I ended up going and showing up every day because I couldn't pay for classes. I interned, right? And I know there's a lot of abuse within the internship now, what I hear. But I interned and I showed up every day. And it's the same way I got my job in New York when I managed the pit for a year. So I house managed a place called the People's Improv Theater. I showed up and I knew people from Chicago there. And like, hey, do you guys need, do you need anything? Do you want me to sweep up the theater or anything? And they're like, no, it's okay. Came back the next day. He's like, hey, I noticed you guys didn't have a sandwich board. Do you guys want me to make you a sandwich board for the front of the theater? Because they just started. They were like 2 years. So I just showed up every day. And working in those offices and understanding how the business side works is just as important as your writing comedy.
Interesting. Thanks very much.
Yeah, no problem, man. Yeah, try and get in that back end. I know Vancouver's gone through a real big culling of the comedy. Like there's no club
Vancouver's. It's not a community. Let me tell you that it's not a community. It's one attacking the other.
I lived in Vancouver. I know it's a. I don't want to say. I don't like saying anything's hard or tough, but the audiences are not great.
No.
Because they talk throughout sets constantly.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like they're going to a jazz brunch.
Yeah, exactly.
They chat through
Plus, you
conversation.
got to fight with the PC too. What you say
And working
everybody.
through. If you focus on the way you're not accepted within a community,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to make a place for yourself. I like myself included. I think everyone gets a little bit jaded when they're not accepted in a certain way. Man,
Yeah.
I have stories of that where it's like I was seen as I'm an improviser, right? First, and then sketch, and then stand up. So I was the furthest thing from a stand up. And stand-ups don't necessarily love improvisers because it's like you're just making up. You're not working. You're not crafting anything, right? But there's a craft. There's a reason why I can tell Jester is an improviser because his flow, man. Because his flow as an improviser, it's quick, it's fast. He just has a flow to him that improvisers have, right? And stand-ups don't, because stand-ups kind of chunk, ka-chunk, 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 right? So it's so multifaceted, and it's just becoming unique. It's being you, right? So don't get bogged down by where you're not accepted. It's the one way that's going to roll you off the track. You just have to push through, make your world.
I've been pushing through. I've been actually
Good for you, man. Good for you.
one time almost arrested because we were in a park and somebody complained about our material and they escorted us out of the park. I mean, it's just,
Know your place, know your audience. Know your
trying to do
audience.
outdoor comedy. But we moved to this other park and now it's good. It's all good now. We're starting to build a following. Yeah. Thanks very much.
For me, the stand-up is just things that I improvised that I wrote down to do again later.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, there's probably not as much anymore of this faction, but when I was coming up, there was a big faction. It was also in Toronto, there was this faction of you went to Humber College, which is a comedy college, and people were just slagging on the Humber Comedy College. I'm like, why? Sure, like they're learning from people, but how is that any different than like it's different in the sense they don't have to pay in blood. That's smart to me. That's smart to me, man. They don't have to pay in blood, and they're part of a faction. And so, if a few people make it out of that program, then that program becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And like my wife graduated out of that program, and it's like you even saw them undercut it. I'm like, don't do that. Don't undercut your program, because the minute you do that, you take away the credit of the time you spent learning how to do it. And you have some great comedians out of there, like Steph Tolev and like Jeff McHenry. You know what I mean? Like there's some great stand-ups that came out of that program. Levi McDougall. Do you know what I mean? Levi writes for Conan now. So, and he's a Calgary boy. You know, like some really awesome talent came out of there. So, Nikki Payne. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We've got a question from the audience now, from Gregory
sweet.
Tomsic. Does matter when you start going on stage? What's the best order go on?
What? Is it?
I think he was asking about. He's trying to ask give him some cut him some slack, but I think he's asking about if you're just starting out. Do you prefer to go out on first or at the end?
Go up. Just get up. That's it. That's it.
all
Just
there
get
is
up.
to it.
Yeah.
Man, you like I honestly think like the one thing that's scary is bombing, right? Like this is the one thing that I think I wish I looked at it from that perspective, because it's like I was okay from the beginning, but it's scared. Like stand-up scared the crap out of me in the very beginning because I was already successful in another like genre. So it's like going into stand-up scared the crap out of me. And I think if I would have gone up with the intention of bombing, where I controlled the bomb, I think I would have felt a lot better. I don't know if it would work because like it's ego and it's all that, right? But I honestly think like just get up as much as possible and recognize that it has nothing to do with your value, right? The way the audience reacts has nothing to do with your value, and keep going, keep pushing.
Aaron, I think I've heard you tell a really great story about the origin of the word stand-up and how its role as crowd warming.
Yeah. Do you want? Is that what you want?
You tell it. Yeah, I want to hear that story. I'm setting you up.
Sure. So I think it was. I don't have my book with me, so and my memory is not great. It's not solid, but
yeah. See.
In the 1950s, in New York, they would have this like cycle of burlesque houses, and the Italian mafia ran them, right? And so they needed to keep the audience warm in between acts of these burlesque girls, right? And so it started in stripping. It started in burlesque strip clubs. And what they would say was like they use the term stand-up fellow. That's a stand-up guy. That's a stand-up guy, right? That's a stand-up cook. That's a stand-up fighter. And then they would say that's a stand-up comedian. So that's where stand-up comedian comes from. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a fun story. And
I like that too. Thank you for yeah. Oh, New York.
I have a question about what the stuff you've been doing during quarantine. Is when you're producing stuff, how much of what you end up filming ends up on the cutting room floor?
A ton. So much. I'm still crafting, like, you know how we craft our stage character for so long, or our voice, whatever some people call it. Getting in front of a camera and talking to no one.
Yeah.
That's an art, man. Like, that's something that I'm getting better at for sure, but I'm starting to see even my own videos get more refined and more things that I cared about before I don't care about now. Like, where it's like, just get it in, just get it done. Yeah. Like, I'm still defining it, right? Like, and I think, like, I used to be a big perfectionist, and now I'm not at all. Like, I'm just like, I just need to get stuff up and out. People just need to know I exist. And so that's kind of where I think all of us are. You just need to get as much up and as much out as possible, because curating a fan base and curating true fans isn't easy. It's not easy. And that's what to me, that's what the goal is, because that's what puts you on a ticket. That's when you get clubs. That's when you get paid, is when you have a fan base. If you can like say your name and then all of a sudden like 50 people show up, 50, just 50, 30, if you can say your name and 10 people show up just because of your name, that's fucking something. Do you know what I mean? That's what you're going for, to me. Because then you can do anything.
Nice.
Right? This last year, the reason why I started doing YouTube is, so I've had some health concerns in the last 2 years, 2.5 years. So I literally, like, I don't know where I'm at, but I literally thought I was dying. Like, I thought I had a baby, and then all of a sudden, great, now I'm dying because of what happens. You can watch the video. I don't want to talk about it forever because it's taken over everything. But nothing lit a fire under my ass more than thinking that. It was like having an exam, and someone goes, "You got 5 more minutes," and I was like, "Oh shit, you fucking get this done." And so just putting it out there, and because I've switched career paths constantly throughout my life, right? Like, and I keep doing those other career paths, but I try to keep the new one on top of it because you have to learn so much to be here. Unless you're gonna have a manager and an agent and all that, like I have an agent, but like unless you're gonna have a manager do that for you, it's like it's all you. It's all you. But bite-sized pieces. Don't overwhelm yourself.
Next up, we've got a question from Linnea Ward.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I might as well kind of jump off of that. Well, not really. You were talking about, you spoke about interning and, getting opportunities there and whatnot, and how you essentially, have worked for free a lot. How do you decide what is worthwhile your time and what is not, as far as like, performing or, putting your energy into it? Or
I think that's gauging value, right? Like, it's gauging value what you're getting and what others are seeing in you, right? Like, it's looking at those two things and whether or not you're getting something out of it. If you're not getting something out of it, like me and my wife talked the other day about like burning bridges. It's like, but I have a bridge too. Do you know what I mean?
True. Yeah.
I have a bridge too.
Yeah.
So don't burn my fucking bridge either. You know? And I don't know if that's the right way of thinking about it, but I don't have time to like I think my mentality, like, it's changed over the years. I know when I lived in Toronto, it was like I started to recognize in the improv world that other comedians aren't there to like support your career. They're not.
No.
They're not. They're just not. Like, we have to recognize that. Yeah, we want a community, but they're not there to support your career. They're making their career, right?
Yeah.
And they're pushing themselves. So you have to push yourself too. So like, to me, I was like, I'm not going to look for other comedians to push my career. I got to find producers. I got to find writers. I got to find directors. That's what I have to find.
Smart.
And so that's how I position myself. That's how I see it, right? Like, I don't need someone that can do my job.
Yeah.
I need someone that does the job that needs this job.
Ah.
I think that's how we have to look at it, because I think sometimes we're like, oh, we're a community, and it is. We absolutely, because I'm all about community and helping people. Like, I think you have to give back. If, like, that's part of me. But that makes me happy, right? Like, don't expect anything from anyone else, but also like give,
Yeah.
because those people are going to come up, and hopefully one person's like, that guy helped me. Okay, I'm going to help that guy else. Like, maybe this one, but don't expect it.
Yeah.
Right? Don't expect it.
Well, and that kind of leads into I was going to ask you about like what you thought the difference, or sorry, the transferable skills that you can transfer that you learn in stand-up comedy to improv, and improv to stand-up. Because I know for myself, like, I tried stand-up for the first time because I wanted to get better at improv and be able to be more assured of my like ideas and take care of myself instead of being carried. So what is
for sure. I know when I teach acting on film more than improv, like I tell actors they should get up and do stand-up. The reason being is the audience isn't going to lie to you. The audience is going to tell you exactly who you are by what you're doing. The audience will tell you exactly who you are. You don't need to guess. They will be like, this is what you are. I'm going to only laugh at this because that's honest, and that's truthful. You know what I mean? Like, someone can write a joke and it's not, because actors aren't going to be great joke writers, right? Right? They're not going to be great joke writers. So they have to be really honest about who they are, and the humility of themselves for the audience to be like, I'm going to laugh at that. And so I think I think that is something that is transferable too, right? Like stand-ups need to learn how to act. And or like Louis Anderson, he's one of my people. I don't know. People make fun of Louis Anderson a lot, and I'm like, I grew up and I love Louis Anderson. He's one of the reasons why I got into stand-up. But there's a lot of comics that I'm like, people like Bill Cosby is the reason why I got into stand-up too. But I'm like, okay.
We didn't know what we know.
Right. Absolutely.
For anyone just joining us, I just wanted to toot Aaron's horn for a minute. Aaron just won the ACTRA Award for Most Outstanding Male Performance in a Short Film very recently. So congratulations, Aaron.
Thank you. Yeah. I really do think that you learn as many different skills in the vein of performance as possible. They will come in handy. It's like what I think Johnny Carson said. Anything you know how to do, you'll utilize in stand-up. Anything. So I think it's diversifying, but not over diversifying to the point of like expelling what you don't want, right? Like it all falls over the edge. And I'm bad for that because of my ADD. I'm like, I'm going to learn this. I'm going to learn this. I'm going to learn. Like the reason why I learned how to do special effects makeup is because I wanted to do what Eddie Murphy and Mike Myers do. Like that's the only reason why I started to learn how to do it. And then I was on set, and then a makeup artist was like, "Let me see some of your work." And he saw it, and he was like, "Come work for me." I was like, "Sure." And so I just fell into a fucking job again, right? And I think that's all it is. It's luck. It's just positioning, and whether or not you want to do that.
But do you think, is it luck, or does it also have to do with saying yes to a lot of things and being open to
I think
that?
it's positioning. I don't know if it's about saying yes, because I'm not. You'll see in the new video. Like I'm not an improviser that is all about yes and.
Yeah.
I kind of think that's over-taught,
Mm-hmm.
or it's taught incorrectly.
Ooh, how do you think yes and? I know, I love this because I also like no but. And you can, as long as it advances. But go on.
Yeah, I don't even think no but. I think what it is too oversimplified, and this is what the video will be. But it's oversimplified. I think, and it could be simpler if you think about it. So how I teach it is, I get someone to say a line of dialogue. I get the other person to react emotionally. Just the emotion. That's it. Just the emotion. No more. Just react emotionally. And then that is 1.5 of an and. That's your yes and half of an and. The emotional reaction. Because you're already going, yep, that exists. Here's some emotional context. Here's some context to what you just said. Without saying a fucking word.
Context. I love that.
Yeah. So it gives you half of the scene already. Mm-hmm. So even if you didn't have a more of a vocal and, it would still work. But you should then use your own vocabulary, your own words in order to push the scene forward.
So like probably physicalize it.
Sorry, all you stand-ups talking about improv.
I know. Here we go. Like, why do you think improv or stand-ups don't like improv? Why do you think? What's your theory?
Because I think they love the craft of writing a joke.
Okay.
And I think some of it's jealousy.
Almost got an actual spit take there.
Yeah. like I think so.
I think.
Yeah.
You have to ask only a stand-up person.
Yeah.
It could be the fact that you just don't like the style. They think it's bunk.
Well, I think a lot of people, do you prefer like short form or long? Like, which do you think are better to apply to
you're
stand-up?
putting me on the fucking spot here. Like I'm going to be crucified by the community.
Well, you work with Dell, so I'm assuming.
I started in long form. I'm a long form hound.
Yeah.
Right? Do I like a lot of long form? No. Majority of improv shows are shit.
Yeah. It's
the
true.
Majority
They're
of
really
them
bad or
are
really good. Yeah.
Right? You got to see a lot of bad improv before you see a good one.
Yeah.
But I also grew up in Chicago, like in my improv world. So I saw a lot of good improv really early. I saw a lot of garbage too.
Yeah.
But majority of it was good. So I got to see really good improv really early.
So based on that, like people, different styles of stand-up, some people are quick, like one-liners, they have like a really quick bit, or a story, which would kind of be more long form. Which are you more?
I'm more of a writer than.
Yeah.
Like stories are great, but I don't write either way. I create moments.
Ooh.
My focus is creating a moment on stage. Don't care how. I'm looking for a reaction. It's not about me. Well, it is, but it's about creating a reaction from the audience. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm trying to just position myself to get that reaction. I think my writing style comes at, like, when I start perfecting it, that's when I become more of like, this doesn't work, that doesn't work, take this out, try this, move this around, flip-flop that. Do you know what I mean? That's when I become a writer. But I really focus on my uniqueness first and creating those moments between me and the audience. And I became fascinated because of Robin Williams, because I think he wrote in his the one where the carriage is behind him. I'm horrible with names. So the one where the carriage in the 80s, his special, I think he wrote a joke where it was a mistake. Like, he wrote the mistake into the joke. And I became fascinated with writing mistakes into my sets. Fascinated with it. So then I became the performer, controlling it. It's a joke, but it's not a joke. Or it's a mistake, but it's not a mistake. It's a joke. That you don't know it's a joke. I pretend it's not a joke, but it's a joke. So I create moments. That's what I look for.
So, okay, mistakes. Could you maybe clarify what that means? Dude. Like a stumble of a word, or just like a, what? How would you?
Oh, like I used to what was one of my jokes that was very much that?
Oh, it's so hard to pick.
Right, that. So it's like, but I used to I think I used to sneeze into a napkin. And then I was like, oh. And then I think I started saying like that was my set list, and I fucked it up, and then I was fucked up. I was like, oh, here's one. So I used to, like, my standby, my thing that I tried to cut out for years, and I can do now, was cut out swearing. So, like, in the very beginning, I would be like, my New Year's resolution was to quit swearing. So I have my set list, I have my pad and pen, and I'm gonna like, every time I swear, I'm gonna mark it down. And then I would give it to then I would give an audience member my pad and pen as well. Can you mark it down for me every time I swear? And then, as I'm giving them the pad and pen, I would drop the pad and pen, and then I'd be like, fuck, shit, balls, tits, fuck, fuck, tits, fuck. That's creating a moment. So that's what I would do.
Okay,
does that make sense?
Yes, that's beautiful. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And
that's what I do.
With the audience.
What's that,
too.
sorry?
So, and I love that, of engaging with the audience too, giving them a responsibility.
I think improv taught me that, though.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because that being able to kind of speak to the audience and feel comfortable. Do you think that that's kind of a skill that you notice with improvisers that come to stand
Absolutely.
up?
100%.
Sorry,
because I'm not worried about my set list. My set list will take care of itself.
Yeah.
Right. I'm worried. Like, I'll get to the joke. If you interrupt me, if you start to slag me, and I have to like interact with the audience and tell someone to shut the fuck up, or you know what I mean, close the window, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I can get back on my set.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just integrate it somehow and weave it back in eventually. It might be garbage, but I'll get there.
Yeah.
You know.
Speaking of interrupting you with a new flow, we've got a question from Jessica Hudson.
Yay, Jessica! You got in there.
I don't know if it's so much a question or just, I don't know, looking for your advice.
Sure.
I'm very new to this. I like to write. I have days where I don't want to write. I have a lot of ideas in my head, but I found that when I do open mics, I sound like I'm telling a story. Like I'm a good writer, but it's just so storytelling, and I didn't realize that was a problem I have. So I've taken writing classes. I'm practicing, but I don't know if that's something it just comes with experience, or what advice can you give me? Is it how I'm writing? Is it
so you're talking like you're telling a story?
Yeah.
You're doing soft seat theater stuff in a club scene. So that's kind of understanding it's okay to tell a story, right? Like it has to be a deadly story, right? Like the beginning, middle, and end. Like you should look at story. Like don't go away from stories. Stories are great, right? Like just learn story structure. Like learn what the rising fall is. Learn what, do you know what I mean? Like learn story, learn format of story, because it's super important. Like I think, and that's like a film, like the rise and fall and all that stuff is like film kind of writing, but it still works in stand-up. There's formatting that you can chunk into writing anything. Like there's a book called Save the Cat, because what my brain does is I look at Save the Cat, and I'm like, how can I utilize this for stand-up, or how can I utilize this for improv? How can I use this to teach this? And so I break it up into a format of teaching that thing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So but learning the structure of a story for a storyteller, you just have to be able to tell a fucking killer story. The other stand-ups are gonna that might make you unique. Don't just because of stand-ups don't do this, because there's always gonna be those dudes that are like, can I give you some advice? You know what I mean? There's always gonna be those cats who are like, well, when you get a Netflix special, then give me some advice. Do you know what I mean?
There's always going to be those cats, and you don't have to save those cats.
Yeah.
Right? Save those. Nice. But do you get what I'm saying? Then also working on your stage character, getting comfortable in that, because what someone's trying to do is position you to be a writer, not a comedian. You're a comedian. You want to be a comedian. So figure out who you are. Who are you? What do people see in you? I talk about this in everything I teach. Journaling, I don't care if you're writing a joke or if you're just writing. Write. Write your thoughts. Write out just garbage. How do you talk to a friend? Look at that. How do you communicate with friends? That's you on stage, right? Where you're most comfortable talking to friends, that's what you want to get to on stage. When you make your friends laugh, that's what you want to try and get to. It's not easy because you're nervous as fuck and there's 1,000 things happening. There's lights, there's a mic, there's all these people that you're trying to ignore, but also you need to engage with them, right? It's not easy.
Yeah.
So worry about you, man. Take care of yourself first before you can take care of the craft of writing, and you will set yourself apart from everyone else, because that's what you're trying to do right now. Because it's the reason why I stopped doing stand-up for a while was because it was how many white dudes with beards have to do stand-up? You know what I mean? I don't need to see more white dudes with beards. I'm kind of tired of myself. You know what I mean? I'm tired of people who also like Dane Cook. You know?
It's more of an aside. So just to add to, is it Jessica?
Yes.
Who was talking about writing. What I do when I write a joke is I come from the perspective of a teacher. So I know how to write a paragraph. I know what a topic sentence is. I know how to connect everything. I know how to make transition, like writing, right? But then I have to write it 5 times because I have to cut it down and put it into colloquial speech.
Yeah.
Just Aaron, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just like Aaron was saying, it's gotta be like you're performing in front of your friends. So you gotta break it down to the real basics, right? And just make it more colloquial, make the punchline, punch it up really quickly. You don't want to, I'm not trying to take over this broadcast or anything, but you don't want to spend too much time leading into the story. It's going to be a short lead in, and it's going to be punch like that before you lose the audience. So when I write, it's like, it takes me days to write a joke. I have to write it as a paragraph, cut it down, keep on cutting it down. So that's what I do.
You know what you could do? This is something that I do. This is how I write. It's painful, but you can try it. I suggest everyone try it. And try more than once. If you're going to try it, don't just do it once and be like, that's fucking hard and that's shit. If you're going to try it, you got to try it. Jot down some ideas that you want. Don't write the joke out. Have the joke. Format the joke in your head, but don't write it out. Just kind of have it. Have your piece of paper with the one line, one word, and just start telling it. Record yourself. If it hits, it's good. If it doesn't, move on. Right? Hits good. Awesome. Keep it. Then you retell it. Then you retell it. And you then start mining and crafting your joke. This is how I write. I literally go, that word didn't work. Let me try this word. Let me try this. The first, I had a joke. It's called Cat in a Public School. And so, how's it start? I can't remember. But it's basically talking about kids go crazy for a cat being in a public school. They go nuts. There's nothing that they go crazy for more. And then I do a whole act out. What is it? Oh, I can't remember. Oh, no, that's what it is. Kids love candy, but there's something kids love more than candy. So when a cat gets into a public school, they lose their fucking mind. They start climbing on bookshelves. They put a dress over their head. I'm doing the joke a disservice. But then I do all the act outs of that. But that joke from beginning to end was the same way I told it the first night to then I just started adding on little bits and pieces to it. It just hit, right? And it was just improvised. It's the same thing as like being my Canadian like Halloween costume joke where it was like every Canadian Halloween costume is literally like just a costume in a snowsuit, right? So that was kind of just the joke. And so I just played with that in a snowsuit. It's also like playing with rhythm. Like, outside of stand-up comedy, what do you like, Jessica?
I love Padres baseball. I like drinking wine.
You like wine? Okay, cool. There's a whole that's unique, right? That's unique. So like you are to me like I don't know about I know there's a lot of like U.S. has a little bit different like relationship with sports. It's like our hockey. But there's something about women who like baseball in the States for sure because they have the cute hat and the cute T-shirt and it's a cute thing too. It's not just fucking like going to a sports game. It's like it's also about being cute, right?
Yes.
And so that's a good angle for you, right? So that like figure out who you are because you are kind of that, right? Like really define yourself. I tell people to journal and then write out your perspective of who you are, then go to someone you care about that cares about you and ask them how they perceive you and then write out what they perceive of you, right? Like right now I perceive of you as like I know where you're at. You remind me of my sisters. You remind me of my sisters, but like you like nice things, right? You're a fan of nice things and you're very particular. This is just my read from like seeing you right now, right? You're a very particular person. You like things a certain way. Yeah? Is that true or no?
That's very true.
Okay. Well, there you go. So that's my read on you. So to me, think about that. That could be your first joke out. But I don't want to write for you. And I don't like it when people tell people how to write or not how to write, but what they should be writing about. But that is my perception of you is like, oh, this woman is very particular. She knows what she likes and she knows what she doesn't like, right? She's fucking pretty firm and it better fit in that box. And I know you can cut some people down if they cross you, yeah or no?
Yeah, I'm a Leo, so yeah, I'm a Leo. I'm in
there you go. You got a voice. Yeah. I hear you. So that's really important. People's perceptions of you is super important, right?
Yeah.
You gotta save the cat. Establish your character early in the set.
Yeah.
Look at it. Love it. Yeah. You could be like. I love it. You're just like the guy. You're like the guy in the rap, like the hype man. Love it.
Yeah, save that cat. Save that cat. Yeah, boy. Cat in an elementary school. Speaking of cat in an elementary school, how have you found performing bits on Zoom when you're like locked into a chair, or like when you're lacking that sense of physicality? Like it's like you can't do the putting the dress bit on while you're in a chair, or put it like because like it's just a trickier move, right? Like
I haven't done it.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't like it. It's not my bag, man. Like that's why I do the YouTube, right? Like that's why I have my channel, because then I can go off. I can actually show you the things. I can do the things. I can be the things. It's basically pushed me to making video and making short film, making character. That's what it's done. It hasn't made me want to do stand up more. That's for sure. It's made me want to like. I'm writing like my next like a special. Like I'm working like a show, but I say that every year, right? To be perfectly honest, I say that every fucking year. So but that is a goal that I have, and that's kind of the goal. That's how I think of it. I don't unless it's a hot audience. I don't like clubs. I don't mind open mics so much. I don't mind those because I find those to be interesting. Because I don't mind hard audiences either. I kind of like them. I kind of like hard audiences because it makes me work. It makes me not be lazy. I know some people hate them. I don't like chatty audiences. I don't like chatty audiences. I don't like going to like Sunday brunch audiences.
Yeah, that's what you were saying. Comedy loves low ceilings, but the problem is that COVID-19 also loves low ceilings.
Exactly. Brad.
Well, actually, that leads me into my next question. What do you think about material about coming out of quarantine, like being in quarantine, about COVID-19 as a subject? Some people think it's something like that can really get the audience on their sides. Other people say it can remind people of the thing that they came there to forget.
I'll tell you my theory on. I'm a real weird history repeating itself in that. I'm a real I'm a huge. I don't know. I think I talked about it in one of my videos. But I'm reading a book right now. So I've had this idea of I'm gonna sound like a crazy conspiracy theorist. I'm telling. I'm not. I don't believe my own shit. Just so everyone's aware. But the number 19, 1919, has stuck in my head forever. So for whatever reason, because it was A&W root beer was invented at that time. The Black Sox happened. A ton of stuff. The Spanish flu. I've looked at it for many years. So it made me think about repeating, things repeating. So the trends of comedy repeating too. So looking at the trends of this is so nerdy and the marketer in me. Improv was really hot in the 90s. Then it died. Because then you had all this weird stuff going on. Same with stand-up was really big in the 80s, right? Late 70s into the 80s. And then it died in the 90s and improv kind of took over. I really feel there's a flux to trend. And so I do feel that comedy is going to bounce back really big, kind of like early aughts feeling to it, because there's going to be the pushback on all of the awareness. There's going to be pushback on the awareness of everything. This is how I feel. So all that awareness, and people are going to get tired of that awareness and tired of that and just want a place to relax. So I do feel in a year and a half, 2 years, it's going to hit and it's going to boom. I don't know how. I don't know what vein. What avenue it's going to be, in stand-up or sketch or improv. But I do feel there's going to be a kind of a momentum towards comedy. If that doesn't really answer your question, but
I love that. I love that optimism for the near future. I'm also now really afraid that the year 2121 is going to blow out humanity's collective asshole.
As long as I'm not here.
Yeah. Love that theory.
Yeah, well, do you think out of dark times, after kind of depressions, people need comedy? Is that kind of
man? If you look at the 80s was the Reagan era, right?
Mm.
So that's when comedy boomed.
Yeah,
because it was really hardcore strict. Whenever the politics is harder and more constricted, when George Bush was in office, it constricted. So then they needed a release, and so that era kind of had a boom. So whenever you have that, I feel you have an opposition. I'm as airy fairy and arty farty as it sounds. It to me, there's kind of a yin and a yang to society, and they're gonna want an outlet. They just if you think about it, there's been a build up and a build up and a build up and a build up because of COVID for so long. When that fucking thing pops, it's gonna be insane. I'm not gonna want to leave the house. I feel it's gonna be that crazy. It's gonna be the 20s. It's gonna be the roaring 20s.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got another question from Robert.
Hit me, Robert. Oh, he's staring contest.
He's gonna win. He's gonna win.
Still gonna win. I already blinked.
Yeah.
Robert, you won already.
We have another question about how you can join the panel. You can search for the workshop, the comedy workshop on Facebook. You can join our community, and we run monthly events like this, like Q&A panels, as well as other shows like our flagship shows Turf Wars and also Turbo Comedy. Look for workshops running every single night in the comedy workshop.
Do it, Gregory. Do it now.
So fun.
So we were talking about L. Ron Hubbard. What did we stop on L. Ron Hubbard? What did we?
Where were we at? This was the pre-show. This was pre-show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pre-show.
So okay. Can I?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me hold these two metal bars while you start before you start talking about it.
Nothing to do.
Repeat. All right. So yeah. So you spoke earlier. I have an obsession with cults, and I believe I have this feeling that like improv might be a cult, or it may have been part of some sort of.
Oh, people were definitely
experiment.
yes-anding L. Ron Hubbard.
Exactly, yes. And I know Del Close knows Lafayette or L. Ron Hubbard. Wait, we were talking about it earlier. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
so
Well, patterning, right?
mhm.
Oh, sorry, that wasn't your question. Okay, go. Hit me with your question.
Wait, my question?
Yeah. Linnea, hit me.
Okay,
So is there a
totally.
question
Yeah.
for it?
I wanted to just know more about how Del Close knows L. Ron Hubbard and
They were scientific. They're science fiction writers, and they were chatting with each other. And there's a comic book about it. I think it's called Wasteland. About
Okay.
Del wrote these comic books in the 80s about his life with another writer. There's some crazy stories in there about Del. So for those of you who don't know who Del Close is been a comedy guru for many years. He taught the likes of like Gilda Radner, Bill Murray, Mike Myers, Chris Farley, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, like all them cats. Jason Sudeikis. So he was just a madman. I do understand that he believes that he was an honorary witch. Like there's a lot of weird stuff going on with Del. Like he's fascinated by obscure things, right? Like that's kind of, I think everyone always like says the Herald is like the thing in improv. To me, it's what Del created was the invoking. Invoking was the best thing he created because it literally teaches you. It's how Del thinks and how he kind of taught. Do you know what I mean?
interesting.
Like,
So invocation again. What is it like? So
the invocation is when you take an object.
It is.
Yeah,
Or,
like besides
or
all that,
whatever.
but it's like taking an object and personifying it. Like,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, poetic.
And so it's looking at an object in totally different ways. So looking at it as looking at it as like this could be a babysitter. You know what I mean? Because you put it in front. So it's taking something, looking at all its function and how that function could be personifying, how it could be art, how it could be, and it's looking at things from multiple different ways. I actually think it's a really useful tool. So Del really taught people how to think in different ways, in different directions, and also being absolutely truthful and not bullshitting people and be the person who you are.
So do you
What'd
think
it
that in all performance, do you think truly, like you mentioned, like, truly be yourself and like,
Yes
is that
and
probably
no.
one of the most important things to...
I think there is, like, there's always going to be a mask we wear, like always. Like we wear masks for everyone. Like the mask I wear for my wife isn't the same as I wear for my daughter. Like, you know what I mean? Isn't the same I wear for my dog. So, and then my best friends, and then like, do you know what I mean? Like we all wear different hats. We're all different personalities. I think on stage we create a stage personality. It's kind of what I was talking about to Jessica.
Yeah.
Finding that stage personality is huge. Like I think the reason why I wanted to do stand-up was because as an improviser, I couldn't play myself on stage. I was always playing someone else. So eventually I was like, I have to learn how to play myself. I have to be me. I can't be other people.
Yeah.
So when I do stand-up, my voice changes just a little bit. Like it's just like, get out of here. No, I don't even want to. And everything turns into like that. For whatever reason, I feel comfortable doing that. That became my stage character. That is who I am. And I do it normally. Like I slur and I mumble normally, but and my Chicago accent came out when I started doing stand-up. Like, and I'm not from Chicago, but like living in Chicago for those years that I lived there, I picked up an accent. So when I say Chicago, I say Chicago. I don't say Chicago. I say Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah, right?
Chicago.
My mask is a duck.
Ooh, I like it.
I usually
I
hide
like it.
behind my ukulele on stage. Well, I did in the before times.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I get that.
Next up,
So
we've
then
got a
pushing
question.
yourself.
And Robert,
Sorry,
you wanted to tangent?
Hit it,
Sorry?
Robert. He's playing.
Did you have a tangent there? Let's catch you quick. I know you had a question, but we keep losing you, so I want to get it out of you.
I'm having a senior moment. You know, he has his ADHD moments. I have my senior moments. So
Oh, trust
we
me,
should
I have
hang.
them too.
We should hang. We should hang. You know, I can't remember what the question was. That was like before 3 disconnections or something.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
No worries.
My neck
Is San
sucks.
Diego still open? Is San Diego still open, Jessica?
Yeah,
Because
they're
BC,
open.
are you guys open? Your club's open? Sorry.
They're open.
Sorry.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Have you
San
been
Diego.
going?
I have not done a live open mic. I've just been doing Zoom. So I still have
Do a
to
live
get
one.
out there and do it.
Good on you.
Oh, I know.
I'd be there with like Lysol just. Tick, tick, tick,
They
you know
have
what I mean?
those
Like, that would
little
be-
microphone. I want to get those little microphone condoms because I don't want to be using that same mic that everybody's
Right?
been using.
Yeah.
Just like a regular condom and
I'm trying to catch Robert's moment
That
of
could just be
lucidity
your
here.
bit right off the top.
okay, we got Robert.
Apply it
Well,
on.
it was just a
Great.
comment. I mean, you were saying that there's got to be an explosion pretty soon. I totally agree. It's gone way to the other side, and it's not hitting a balance. And it's really, I don't know if anybody's done comedy, but it's difficult to do comedy out there. People don't laugh. You offend people really easily. You gotta step on eggshells. It's so hard. Like I would think back to the times of George Carlin or those guys where they could say almost anything and not be offending anybody. But nowadays, if you say you like chocolate ice cream and all the vanilla guys are after you, it's just really weird out there, man. I'm telling
Yeah, but it just makes us less lazy, right? Like it just pushes us to really work, right?
Yeah.
you. Yeah, you have
How
to
can I write it? How can I write it to get everyone in, right?
Yeah,
Like how,
Yeah.
It's basically making like it's like writing for TV.
yeah.
How do I make it so the TV's okay with it? Right?
You got to be punching
There's
up.
always going to be those obstacles.
Yeah.
Always gonna be
The other
those
thing is, I was thinking when you were talking about, there's a definite hunger for entertainment out there. People need to be entertained. Even before this COVID thing hit, I was just taking my speakers out and playing music. I wasn't even doing comedy, just to see what the vibe was, see if I'd be accepted in public. And I was getting people just congratulating me, bringing, you brought some music. Oh, it's so wonderful to hear some music for a change. And so there's a hunger out there. There's a definite hunger. If you think about it, even during the worst crisis that we had, like say the Great Depression, right, where people didn't have jobs for lining up in soup kitchens, they could still go to the theater and still get entertained. With COVID down here, you cannot go to a theater. You can't escape your drudgery. You can't go to a bar. You can't go and eat indoor. Like I don't get this whole dining thing. Like when I go to a restaurant, I want to eat indoor. Sorry.
It's making you internalize. It's making everyone internalize. Like everyone has to. Everyone's seeing a part of themselves that they didn't want to see, and everyone's having to work on it. Everyone, every
Exactly.
single person.
Well, I mean, there's
I've
definitely.
enjoyed the process. Like I think it's been the second coming for me. Like it really pushed me to like how can I grow when my hands are tied behind my back? It's like, well, oh, guess what? I got one hand free and I'm gonna do this instead. And it's really like I've done more film in the last year and a half than I have in a long time, right? And so, and I forgot how much I loved it, right? So I'm sure when we bounce back, I'll remember how much I love stand-up, and I'll get to, like do that again. I'm just not focusing on it, right? I'm focusing on the crafts, the things I can control, and I think that's the lesson I've taken away from it is like, what can I do? What can I control? What can I like this? Like this wouldn't have existed. You wouldn't be able to talk to anyone like this ever. And like, what a gift, man! Like, how awesome is that? Like, how like you get to talk to people. Like, I had a workshop with Rich Tellerico, who is a writer for Keel and Peele. Who gets to like have that? Who gets to have a workshop with a cat with 3 other people and do a writing workshop with a guy that wrote for Keel and Peele? Like
It's connected.
like there's some amazing things out there. Like amazing. I do suggest everyone research who's giving classes, because I mean it's not so much anymore, because I think people the Zoom like the trend has kind of been like, I don't want to do anything more Zoom. But I do think that it really opened up people. Like, you could like Instagram someone you really admire, and they might get back to you because they're so fucking bored. You know what I mean? Like I Instagrammed this guy. His name is Rob Friedis, and he makes molds for special effects makeup, and I love his molds. And I know I'm a nerd, and I'm like, how do you do this? How do you do that? And he just started chatting with me and talking to me. Like, that's amazing. Like, this guy is like the guy. So it's like, this is your opportunity to like go, hey, try it. Who cares? They probably won't remember you. And if they do, well, like, they might be an asshole. They might be awesome. You know?
Yeah.
Speaking of learning from awesome people, thank you, Aaron Merke, for joining us in our
Glad you
Q&A
didn't say
today.
asshole. Glad you didn't say asshole.
We appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
If you're interested in learning about more content like this and participating in weekly open mics where open mic nights where we are assigning a word and let you work on your own material, check us out on Facebook at The Comedy Workshop. From all of us, that's tonight. I'd like to thank Aaron Merke as well as Jessica Hudson, Robert Ma, and Linnea Ward. That's all for tonight. Thank you. I've been Jester and still continue to plan to be. Good night.
Yay, Jester.
Thank you.